Welcome to Nonprofit Nerd Impact Unleashed. Get ready to dive into the world of nonprofits, where the nerdy passion and unstoppable dedication of those making a real impact is celebrated. Together with your host, Jarrett Ransom, the inspiring stories and game-changing strategies of nonprofit leaders will be explored. Join us to unravel the mysteries of successful fundraising, uncover the secrets to effective advocacy, and nerd out over innovative approaches to solving social challenges. Nonprofit Nerd Impact Unleashed is your go-to podcast for no-nonsense discussions with real-life superheroes of the nonprofit sector. Get ready to unleash your inner nerdiness and discover or rediscover how to change the world together. Now let's dive in and embrace the power of our nerdy side.
You're about to hear from one of what I consider another dear friend. I've gotten to know LaShonda Williams through several different other avenues, and we've been to conferences together. I've had a chance to meet her mom, whom she talks a lot about. So you're going to hear from LaShonda and how she lives it up while she's also working, and she's spoiling her mom. So go ahead and listen to what LaShonda has to say. And also shout out to Bloomerang. Thank you so much. We appreciate you supporting season 1 and these phenomenal conversations. Take a listen to LaShonda. Okay, Miss LaShonda, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm better. It's
You're better.
been a very colorful week for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like to say we're in the ears of a lot of people right now, right? Like a lot of people listening to the conversation. Thank you for saying yes to this conversation, Nonprofit Nerd Impact Unleashed, where season 1 is really about balancing acts, juggling. What are we managing? What's on our plate? So I like to start off. Who are you, my dear? I feel like we're close friends. I've said this to others on this podcast is like, if you and I could sit on a couch together and drink whatever our cocktail, our drink, our liquid of choice, right? Like whatever that is, tell me about you. And let's start off with like, what are some of the names that you go by, LaShonda?
Gosh, so I have many names and many hats. The name and the hat that I love the most is Renee. And so, yeah, Renee is my middle name, and it's the name that my mother calls me most often, affectionately, and all of my friends and family, like really, really close family, call me Renee. Renee is, in my opinion, a term of endearment. LaShonda is a little more formal. However, Renee is the young lady that you see that's a combination of all things that encompasses the charisma you see in the workplace, but a different level of relaxation. We often talk about showing up as our authentic self. Renee is completely raw for the most part. However, you have to also be mindful of who you are and whose you are and who you represent at all times. And when I say represent, I'm speaking specifically of family. So I am a daughter, I am a cousin, I am a really great friend. I am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, 25 years Silver Star, very excited. Pledged with Gamma Omega Omega chapter. So very, very excited about all of those personal things. The other name that I go by is LaShonda. And so, LaShonda in the workplace is, she's serious, she's focused, she's assertive, she's caring, she's passionate, she's charismatic, and she is about the business, and she definitely wants to make the organization that she chooses to affiliate with be successful and achieve their goals. I'm also sometimes, I had a neighbor who used to affectionately call me Miss Renee. And so Miss Renee is the sassy little girl that has these big, boastful ideas, dreams, hopes, ambitions, that she would cheer along the way by calling me Miss Renee. And also, and sometimes, my mom would affectionately call me Miss Black America when I was growing up.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for sharing that. For those of you that might be watching this, because I have a video side of this as well, My eyes lit up, my mouth dropped. I was like, I've never heard you refer to yourself as Renee. So this is new news to me. And I'm so thankful for you to share and open up so openly about it.
Yeah, that's me. I'm an open book. Today's our day to really get down to the nooks and crannies. And like
Yeah,
you said, let's just kind of have a conversation as though we're both having a little bit of tea or coffee. So
that's
cheers and
right.
a toast to us.
Let's toast. Mine's Crystal Light. Did you know they still made Crystal Light?
Oh my gosh, are you serious? Crystal light to
Mhm.
crystal light.
To that, absolutely. You said something that really struck a chord for me, and not in a bad way, because you're in Houston, am I right? Texas?
Yes. In
Okay.
Houston,
And
Texas.
yeah, and I was born in Georgia, raised in South Carolina. My grandmother, who is a dear soulmate of mine, loved that woman dearly. And my mom, they would both remind me, they would say, remember who you belong to. So when you really have that side of you, LaShonda, Miss Renee, that talks about like how you show up, how you represent, who you are in this world, what I heard you say is it's a big responsibility, and you have a lot of people to consider when you show up, and you choose to consider these people in a loving, respectful manner. Where does that come from? Is that also like childhood upbringing?
It is definitely childhood upbringing. In everything I do, I think about my mom reminding me of the importance and the value of education and being my number one cheerleader, supporter, advocate through all of the many things. And to arrive to this particular point in my journey
Yeah.
is definitely a privilege and an honor, and I don't take it lightly. And I literally think about like my great grandmother, I wish she could see me now. My grandmother, I wish she could see me now. So in those things, when I do all things, I think about them.
I love that. And such a legacy and a tribute, right? Like truly to them.
Definitely.
Let's turn the page, and we're going to kind of go forward and backward this whole conversation. So I hope our viewers and listeners can keep up. Talk to us about your professional roles, your professional titles, because you, my friend, you have a lot on your plate. You serve in a couple of different capacities for a couple of different places. And I heard you mention your sorority with so much glee and pride. You probably have a leadership role there too. Like, what does it look like for the professional side of you?
Well, it is a mixture and medley of many things, as you said. But I think they all complement each other because each of them speak to every aspect of me, if that makes sense. So when you think about, and I'm not a scientist, okay? So I think about a nucleus. And so I think of at its core, there are passions that I do possess, and each of the roles that I play allow me to fulfill those said passions. So,
Mhm.
for example, with South Texas College of Law, working in the Office of Alumni Engagement and Annual Giving, I love to build relationships. I really like to share with donors the importance of their gifts and how they can transform lives. I've been a recipient of scholarships, and I've also been one of those students who had to take out loans. So I know the best, both sides of the spectrum to understand the importance of philanthropic support. I've always been a talker, and I used to teach public speaking in my past life. Believe it or not, I'm a journalism major. So being affiliated with the Fundraising Academy and being able to help with the webinars and to help develop curriculum, it's all second nature to me, and it also feels another passion of mine, which is knowledge. Knowledge is powerful. It can change your life. And, obviously for those that are going to law school, once they graduate from law school and pass the bar, there are some major transformations that can happen in their lives economically, socially, spiritually, and being able to be a part of that process and learn about the struggle during law school and speaking with them at our bench and bar brunch where they are celebrating they've passed the bar and getting them to open up about their journey from the day that they decided to enter law school to to graduation to passing that bar is absolutely amazing. I hear phenomenal stories. I ask those really riveting questions, and I'm really excited to be able to share in those tears of joy with the students. So it's amazing. And, we're preparing for Cultivate. I love a good conference. I like to present, and I love to put the conference together. So again, it's being able to handle all of those things. And then there's another profession that is an unofficial profession, which is the caregiving profession. And so again, feeding another form of passion for me. I am an only child, so it's my mom and me, and we are thick as thieves, the two of us, and we're practically besties in many ways, but she does remind me that she's the mom. And so it's been a really wild ride past several years, just getting closer together, making sure she has what she needs, making sure I have what I need. And then, of course, managing all of the various calendars, managing calendars become somewhat of a challenge at times. So we're constantly syncing up calendars, definitely.
Oh my gosh, you have touched on so much, and it's just like an open book. I love it. Keep the hot tea coming, and it is so cool to me to hear this side of you. First of all, I got the wonderful privilege to meet your sweet mom in Nashville. You and I were at a conference, and I got to hug her neck, as we say in the South, right? Like it was so
Exactly.
special. Yeah, and I love that. And thank you for opening up about that. See, you're an only child, as you said, there's a lot. You talk about syncing your calendars. One of my previous guests talked about that too, Micah James from Bloomerang, and she talked about it from the sense of with her partner and with their children, and and how that looks. What does this look like for you? Because you, as you mentioned, several responsibilities on your plate. So that calendar is probably a tool. One of the things I want us to provide our listeners is some of these tangible tools, some of these technical support resources, some of these go-to methods that support us for the busy lives that we lead. So it sounds like the calendar is a big one for you. Is there anything else?
It is simply the calendar. And so, I am a simple person in some aspects. I can be very complex, and I can be high tech when I need to be. But when it comes to managing day to day, I have found that the most effective measure for me is to write it down. So, I have my master calendar, and obviously we have our electronic calendars, and I love a good electronic calendar. However, when technology fails and is unavailable, you have to have a backup. And so I'm a traditional old school girl, and I get a calendar every single year. This year, my calendar is a nice big binder, and it's filled with all the things. It has positive affirmations. She said and she did. She believed and so she did is the cover for this year. And it has stars. It has cupcakes. It has celebratory stickers. All of the things that keep you motivated throughout. And the one thing I love most about my handheld calendar is that it provides me with an overview of what to expect for the month, but it also gives me those huge blocks that I need to write lots of notes for each of the days. And see, that's the difference. I remember at one point everybody was buying a Covey calendar, which is great.
I remember that.
Yes, Covey calendars are hot, and I had one.
Yeah.
But what's worked most effective for me is those that have those various positive affirmations. And, I also buy, at the beginning of every year, I get the 365 devotions, and I try to stay on target with starting off with those positive affirmations and or scriptures the first thing in the morning to set the tone for the day. And that kind of helps guide the calendar in a spiritual aspect.
Do you use your calendar as a journal as well? Like, is that kind of a hybrid technique into the?
I have tried to journal because I love to write. My challenge is consistency and just really carving out the time for me. You and I have talked a lot about the importance of, balance, work-life balance, and self-care. That is one of the things that I have really wanted to do more of, but it's like, when do you have the time? And
Right.
so I have to remind myself that I am worth the time. You get 24 hours in the day, and
Yeah.
at minimum, you can dedicate 10 minutes of the day
Right.
to you to
Right.
just do something outside the norm. But my guilty pleasure, I hate to say this out loud, but it's Candy Crush, girl. And I'm at level 6,055.
Stop it.
Yes,
Oh, I
ma'am.
love it. I love it.
So
So
yeah,
that is super cool to hear, truthfully, because, I've heard journaling, I've heard hikes, I've heard retreats, I've heard bubble baths, I've heard spa days. No one but you, Miss Renee, has said Candy Crush.
listen, Candy Crush breaks the monotony of anything. I have to concentrate. There's multiple things involved with Candy Crush, and this is not a commercial. Okay.
They're going to be my
This is
next sponsor, by the way.
right. This is not a commercial. What I like about it is that one, it forces you to concentrate on something else.
Yes.
Like, you have to totally be present. And then obviously there is strategy in being able to successfully go to the next level. And in instances when you get stuck on a level, just like in life, sometimes we get stuck in a space, in a place, and we're trying to figure out what's the right way to go. Should I go left? Should I go right? And with the Candy Crush, you get the rush when you see the explosions, right? But then you also feel the sadness when it's like you failed. But then at the same time, I'm motivated because failure is not an option. And I'm not going to quit, just like you would not quit in life. You'd continue to forge forward until you're able to overcome that said obstacle. So 6,000 plus levels later, I'm unstoppable.
Preach it, girl. I love it. Well, we were having a conversation. There was a question about whether someone in our profession should pursue the CFRE designation, the Certified Fundraising Executive designation. And you, my dear, you said, you are worth it. You are worth this investment. You are worth the dollars. You are worth the time, like the value of that. And so I just want to remind you that you said, we are worth it, and to take that 10 minutes to do whatever it is, right, that it is you want to do. And I love hearing you, and I'm sure our listeners do as well, because self-care comes in so many different forms, right? Like, to recharge, to reset, to do all of that comes in so many different forms. I know that you also love to travel, and you and your mom have been to some really cool places. Would you share like some of the cool places you've gone to together, and maybe even what's next? Like, whether they're vacations or road trips or just fun adventures, right? Like, what's next for you? What are you going to do?
Wow. Lots of things. She is definitely my travel companion extraordinaire.
Yes.
And I told her all the time, I was like, I have you spoiled. So our last trip together was in Nashville. However, in Nashville, we ended up extending our stay when we were there for the One Cause conference. So we had a chance to go to the African American Music Hall of Fame. We went to a couple of great little restaurants. There's a restaurant called Cafe Intermezzo that I was exposed to when I lived in Atlanta, discovered there was one in Nashville. So we had some Cafe Intermezzo. We also had an opportunity to catch we did a lot of walking in the area because walking is really important. We walked around the area a little bit, but the one thing that I think we had the biggest blast last year was we went to Vegas. My mom had been wanting to go to Vegas for a while. So we planned a trip to Vegas. We went to Vegas in the spring. The original plan was for 5 days, 4 nights, and it ended up being a week because we were there when there was this storm. So we were there. We had a chance to go see Gladys Knight. And it was amazing at the Smith Center. If anyone is ever in Vegas and if there's a concert at the Smith Center, that is the place that you definitely want to go. The venue is absolutely phenomenal. We had great seats. I spared no expense. We don't go on vacations very often, but we try to get one in every year. And when we go, I just say we're going to put it on the card and we'll think about it later because life is short and you want to enjoy yourself. We also had a chance to go see Michael Jackson, Cirque du Soleil. The show was amazing.
Did you love it?
I loved it. It was my
Yes.
second time seeing it. So it was absolutely phenomenal. And then I also managed to get some tickets to see Eddie Griffin. And this is a warning to everyone. It had been a minute since, I remember Eddie Griffin, right? And I knew he was hilarious from Malcolm and Eddie. However, I had never seen his comedy show. And so keep in mind, I'm with my mom, right? So I was not sure, I wasn't sure if it was going to be edgy or not, but he was off the edge. When I tell you, my mom reminded me that she was my mom at the show, because she was like, oh my God, he's just so disrespectful. I was like, I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry.
That is,
It was so hilarious. We were like having our own little private show while he was having a show, because I was like, I'm so sorry. I had no idea that it was going to be as colorful.
okay.
But yeah, but she managed to push through. We had a great time. We also went by MGM. We went to the House of Blues. We went to the International House of Smoke. Like, we had a good time. Like, we straight kicked it, and we stayed at the Cosmopolitan. And when I tell you, we had a blast. That's all I can tell you. We're planning to go to Alabama for a road trip in May. So I mentioned that I'm Renee. I'm a cousin. And so we have my mom's niece and my cousin will be graduating from high school in Mobile, Alabama. And we are planning to road trip there on a Tuesday from Texas to Alabama to be at her graduation nice and early on Wednesday morning at 9 a.m., I believe. And when I saw that invitation, I said, is that the right time on a week? And I was like, they just didn't think about the out of towners now, did they? But needless to say, we'll be there for a week. We'll be visiting a variety of family. We're going over the Bay. We may dash over to Pensacola if there's enough time. And then I mentioned earlier, my grandmother, my great grandmother are no longer with me. So we will go by to say hello to them and leave some fresh flowers on their gravesite. So that's the upcoming trip. But we've been plenty places. We've been to Hawaii. We've been to Sarasota a couple of times when I was taking some grad courses, Sarasota, Florida. My mom would go with me. She's been with me to a variety of different places. We've been to Jamaica. And you took your mama with you to Jamaica? Yes, everything's Irie, man. I took my mom to Jamaica. And so we've had some really good, cool trips. We went to DC. When I passed the CFRE exam, my treat was DC. So when we were in DC, we did DC in Baltimore. So obviously we did the African American Museum and in DC. And then we also did the African American Museum in Baltimore, hooked up with my CFRE friends. Like, we kick it. Like, I have to remember sometimes that she's my mother.
Yes.
And I have to remember there's a little bit of an age difference because she hangs with me. And it's not until I realize that she's getting a little bit tired that I'm like, oh, okay, that's right. You are my mom.
Yes, she is spoiled. That is fantastic. My mom has said, kind of the same for me. I've taken her on several trips and I mean, my big why is freedom, flexibility, and travel. And when I can bring someone I love, someone who birthed me, someone like to have these experiences with my mom, hearing your stories truly helped me relive these amazing memories of trips and adventures. And we've been in some dicey situations ourselves, LaShonda, where it's like, I'm curious what my mom's going to say about this later. We found our way to a hookah bar and my mom wanted to ask this. She goes, can I ask them what that is? I said, no, just Google it and don't ask any questions. It was really fun.
Love it.
Yeah, we should get our moms connected.
Yes.
I think that would be cool. Well, LaShonda, I could talk to you for hours. I love hearing these stories. I love also having a deeper look into Renee or Miss Renee. And I don't know if that's offensive, but I feel like, I'm going to start calling you either of those, Renee or Miss Renee. It's very fitting.
Changeable. I love it.
Yeah. It's great. Well, hey, for everyone who's listening that says, This woman is amazing. I want to know more about her. Like, where can we find more about you, more about the organizations that you're working with? Just shout out right now to anyone, any place, anything, right? Like, where can
All the
people
things.
connect with you? All the things.
The best place to find out more about me or to connect with me is LinkedIn. But that is my source. I have Facebook, I have Instagram, but I do not use them so much so I've been hacked on Instagram a couple of times. Word to the wise, have activity or closed account. But no, LinkedIn is definitely the place to connect with me, just because that is one of my nuclei. Yeah. And I'm, I try to be on LinkedIn no less than once a week. And, I'm always trying to be present on LinkedIn. And when I say be present, I'm one of those people that, read the wonderful articles. I like to make the comments, and I love to share in celebrations. And LinkedIn creates a space for me to stay connected to fellow professionals in the industry, as well as to network and learn more and meet more professionals. So LinkedIn is the place to hit me up.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. Take that invitation openly. Everyone just start, sending invites to LaShonda and look for that on her side. So thank you so much. It's been fantastic. I just love hearing from you, connecting with you, learning more about who you are, all the roles, all the responsibilities, everything that you're juggling. And it seems that you do it with grace. So from one Southern girl to another, bless your heart. You're doing awesome.
Thank you. You're too kind. I do want to give a shout out to my mom. She has a birthday coming up on Sunday. I'm sorry. February 18th is her birthday. So shout out to mommy for her birthday. And then we're going to the Ensemble Theater to check out the piano lesson, and we'll have a lovely meal. The location TBD. I know where I want to take her, but she hasn't told me where she wants to go.
Well, happy birthday. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all this, LaShonda. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too. It's my pleasure.